This time we have our IMS host Pete Tong and the legendary Giorgio Moroder. Welcome to the stage. Thank you.
My name is Giovanni Giorgio, but you can call me Giorgio.
And I'm left-handed. See, I sleep on the left with my wife. So
And I'm half deaf here, so
I'm totally deaf, as you know.
and I broke my arm, so I have to be careful.
Okay, well, thanks for coming, Giorgio. Settle down. So, your life changed a couple of years ago. You got a phone call from Daft Punk.
Well, a couple of years ago, I was happy playing golf.
Retired, basically.
Retired, doing my crossbow puzzles, and then the robots called me.
The robots called you.
And asked me if I was interested in collaborating on a song. They were doing the new album. First, Thomas explained to me what the album was, and I didn't get a clue what he was talking. All I know.
How did he describe it?
It took about half an hour to say that he may use some brass or maybe some guitars. He didn't say he wanted to revive dance, and so he didn't say that, or I didn't understand it. So then one day I was in Paris, and he called me, and they called me and said, "Why don't you come in the studio and you just tell your story?"
Did you think you were going in to make music with them?
Yeah, I didn't have a clue. So I went in, I see those 3 mics, and I said, no, we don't want you to do music. You just come in and talk about your life. And so I spoke about 2.5 hours. And
was someone, I've seen the film, was someone asking you questions, or you just went? It was just like therapy.
He asked some questions, but he just let me talk. And I think they have the most complete story of my life, and one day they're going to give it to me, so they cannot blackmail me.
Do you ever have any idea at the time of what you were getting yourself into, or the effect it would have on you?
No, not at all, because first of all, they didn't tell me what they wanted to do. So I was guessing for like several months. I thought maybe they take part of it out, cut it up, do a little effect. Those.
So it's going to be sampled.
And then I went back to the studio for another project with the same engineer who did then the album, this guy Florian Lagatta. And I said, "So how is the song coming out?" And he said, "It's great, but okay, what is it?" Oh, no way that he would tell me. I tried to bribe him, but no way he would tell me. And so I was lost. I was left with I didn't know what it was until they played it to me about a year ago I think in March.
So you probably got to hear it just before, because they kind of unleashed it at Coachella last year. So you probably just got to hear it.
It was sometime in, I think, February, and I was really surprised, and it was quite emotional actually, to hear your voice and then the great music they played, and that was the start.
It's a homage to your career, basically.
Yeah, it's actually I think I'm the only one, or one of the few people in the world whose biography is a song.
Absolutely. So that I think probably the most surprising aspect of to kind of spin off of you kind of coming out of retirement is you've started DJing. I almost want to say again, because we'll go back to your past, but I think you DJed when you were much younger. But
I DJed when in late 60s. I would take a tape and records, and I would go to the discotheques in Germany with my management, Klaus Guirini, who had a company called the DJ Corporation, and so I did a little bit singing and a little bit DJing. But just for like about 2 years.
So about 50 years later, you're back. So what brought DJing back on?
50 years later, I was invited to do a little DJ for Louis Vuitton in Paris, in the walkway, and I loved it. I did the editing, and then
was after Daft Punk?
No, this was before. This was before. Then the Red Bull Music Academy asked me to to teach or to come to talk to the students. And so at the same time, I said, why don't we do a DJing? So I did my first DJ at the Outpost in New York, and it went well. And since then, I went 2 times to Japan, China, Mexico, here in town, Sweden, London, Berlin, everywhere.
So what do you make of it?
I love it. I love it because I always wanted to be a singer, but I never really pursued it because I knew I didn't have a great voice, and second, I was too nervous on stage. I wouldn't remember lyrics. So I didn't really pursue it. But now, as a DJ, it's almost like you're an artist. Well, you know it better than anybody. You're the first big DJ ever, right?
Don't know about that, but
well, no, it is true. So it's like it's like you're in front of whatever 10,000 people, and whatever you do, they do, and it's great. And you mix, and it's like an entertainer.
Because some people from your era might look down at DJing today and think, it's cheating, but you're a great admirer.
It's funny. I was talking to the mayor of Utilising, my little town in Italy, and I said, you know what? I'm becoming a DJ. You're a DJ? You're a producer. You're a musician. You're an artist. No, wait. DJ now is not what it was like 20 years ago. DJ now, it's like the big DJs. They are stars. It's like.
So how does it work for you DJing? Are you turntables, vinyl, computers?
I use Ableton Live. I do my A/B. I mix the songs between the first and the second. Then I add percussion. I add effects. So I have basically 4 channels, and they're mostly sync. Some are not. Some are synced. And creatively, it's great because if I have a song and I see people
you can close the door. Is this one of yours, Giorgio?
No, at least not yet.
Okay, that was nice. So let's go. I mean, you're in this world now of DJing, but you were there right at the beginning. So let's go back to the days when you were sleeping in your car outside discotheques.
Yeah, I from Italy where I was born, I moved to Berlin. I was lucky. I had a few hits.
You're so ahead of the game. That's where everyone wants to live. You're so ahead of the game. That's where everyone wants to live.
Berlin. Well, anyway, so to make some money, because as a composer, even if you have a hit, you start to make money a year or 2 years later. So I would do this little DJ stuff, and sometime I would have too much alcohol, so I couldn't drive home. So, like at 2:00 at night. So sometime I would sleep in the car and save money to. The beginning of as a composer producer are not easy. So
what were these early discos like?
The discotheques,
yeah,
or
back in the day.
It's not that much different than now. The good DJ would play the music which the people would want to hear. And in fact, when I lived in Munich, I had a good friend DJ in a club, and I would take tapes, cassettes with me of new songs and test them out. And it's great because you see immediately the effect on the people. If they would leave the floor, that's a bad sign. If they would come in, that's a good sign. So I tested some of the songs. Okay.
There's great pictures of Giorgio. I was looking at a Guardian interview that you did, and they were flashing up pictures of Giorgio from back in the day. And it was like a continuation of scenes from like Boogie Nights, with your moustache, the big car, the big house and everything. You were definitely living the life. I think we all know about the stories about Studio 54, but what was it like in kind of Miami and LA in those times?
I don't know.
You can't remember?
No, I remember, but no.
They were that good?
No, I was in Munich basically until the late 79.
Okay.
So when I came, when I produced Donna here, I would be here for like a month or two, then back a few months. So I didn't have really that much connection before I moved.
You didn't realize the effect your music was having?
In fact, I went to the Studio 54 one time. That was just when Love to Love You came out with Donna in 76, and it was absolutely incredible. The difference from the discotheques I knew in Munich or in Berlin and the new discotheques in the Studio 54 was crazy.
What
the whole, first of all, the sound system was just incredible. Then that big moon with the spoon. With
what was the spoon
Coke.
for?
I guess it was for Coke. I don't know. They didn't they didn't offer it to me,
right.
but
They'd done it all.
Yeah.
But you had a very special relationship with Donna Summer. Lots of magic happened in the studio. How did you get to meet her?
Actually, Pete Bellotti, who is my co-producer, we needed we wanted to have 3 girls with English or American with no accent. So we asked in Munich, we asked for the girls, and we found Donna, and we found 2 other girls, and Donna did an incredibly good job. And we said, okay, if we have an idea, we are going to call you back. And so we called her back, I think a year later, a few months later, and we had a first hit with a song called "The Hostage," which did quite well in I think in Holland and France, and was supposed to do really well in Germany. And we were supposed to be on the big show. I forgot one of those big shows which sometimes break an artist. And just 2 days before the terrorists, the RAF, killed a big politician who was a hostage.
Right.
So nobody played the song anymore, no TV, no nothing. So that song was gone, at least for Germany.
Okay. And how did a song like "Love to Love You, Baby" come about?
Then I had the idea. I loved that song with Serge Gainsbourg, "Je t'aime." So one day I said, Donna, if you have an idea about the lyric, just tell me. So she came back and says, how about, ooh, love to love you, ooh, love to love you, baby. I said, great. So at that time I had a studio in Munich. We went to the studio, I took a guitar, and she sang it like, ooh, love to love you, love to, just a very demo. The day after, the studio was available because usually it was busy by the Rolling Stones and all.
This was Musicland.
The Musicland. And we did a little demo, like with my 4 musicians, and my music publisher went to Cannes to the festival, the Midem, with the song where she was already moaning, not as much as in the long version, and I was embarrassed. I thought I cannot imagine a woman presenting that song to the industry, and she called me back and said, "It's a hit. Everybody wants it." And that was
what existed. It started as a short version. Why did it ended up as one of the longest records of all time?
Yeah, well, it started with a short version. Yeah. Then I made a deal with Neil Bogart here in town at Casablanca.
Legendary.
And the legend says, or he said, that he had a party, or nobody really knows exactly what happened. But
he had a lot of parties.
He had a lot, but that was a special one, I guess. And he called me at 3 o'clock at night and said, Giorgio, how about extending, because the public or the party goers, they want to hear it over and over. I don't know if it was a girl saying that or the party people. Why don't you do a long version? And that was great. We did it in about 2 weeks, a 17-minute version.
So did you get Donna back in for more moaning?
Yes. Well, we recorded, I think, the single, part of the single stayed, and we just continued with the rest. And then, of course, she had to moan, and that was a little problem because she was...
Was she shy?
She was shy, and especially the husband was there, the engineer, Pete, myself. So I thought to get into the atmosphere, I have to throw everybody out. So everybody was gone. I switched the lights off in the studio, and so I guess she barely could see me. I saw her, and that's how she did it.
Amazing.
I think I was the inspiration for that, but maybe not.
And that was the start of a pretty incredible double act, which led to I Feel Love, which is such an iconic piece of music. Do you want to just...
Yeah, I Feel Love was... the idea was to have an album with sounds of the 50s, the 60s, 70s, and then I thought, how would a sound of the future, like in 10 years, sound? And I thought the only way would probably be just use only synthesizer or just computers. And that's how I started. I had this guy, Tommy, who was a real great guy, and he knew how to use the big Moog, the module.
It just come out, hadn't it? Moog.
Yeah, well, I used the Moog in my first hit. I had a first hit with the Moog I think in 71.
Okay.
A song called Son of My Father,
yeah.
which then became a hit in England by Chick Ritchie.
Yeah.
So then I started from zero. I said, okay, the tempo should be 125. And the problem was, at that time, the Moog was went out of tune every 20 seconds. Yeah. So I had one bass line, which was dong, 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 dong. And that would then repeat dong, 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 dong. And you could speed it up, And so I would do the tracks like dropping in every 20 seconds, tune it, drop in, tune it, drop in. And so I built it up. Then I told Tommy, who was a little bit of a genius, okay, now give me a white noise and chop it up. And so he gave me the hi-hat, gave me the snare, pak, pak, the bass drum, and some of the effects.
Okay. And the delay was a happy accident, I believe.
And the original was dun 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 dun. And in the mix here in town, I think my engineer Jürgen Koppers tried a little thing with a delay. First he tried with a reverb, then he put a little delay, and he said, "Wait, that's interesting, that's interesting." And now suddenly out of dun 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 became do 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 do. But the timing, if you listen to it, it's not perfect, because now you can measure it, right? 120 beats makes there was no way to measure it, so we tried it by ear. And it took about an hour.
It's funny now that everybody, and now everyone can do it perfectly, but they actually crave to go back and do it imperfectly.
Yeah. Well,
to get that feel of the old days. You lived through the disco era, which was pretty much the span of the 70s. 70 to about 79. Do you remember the end of it? And do you remember what was happening in America about people, like when radio decided disco, we'd had enough?
Yeah, that famous disco sucks movement. It probably was time to stop it for a while, at least here in America. Right. I think in Europe, I think it continues, the music, like Italo disco.
How did you feel as one of the main protagonists when that was going on?
First of all, I didn't produce Donna anymore because Donna moved to Geffen. Yeah. And so we had a little bit of a problem there. So I was not that much interested in disco anyway, and I started to do the movies. So I had so many other stuff that it didn't affect me at all.
You're aware, obviously, with the kind of rise of popularity of EDM in kind of mainstream culture here in America. It's very much pop music here now. Do you think the same fate could happen to EDM in America? After 5, 6, 7 years, people get tired of it? Or is there any lessons we could learn from back then?
Well, no. I first of all, since I retired, I wasn't really listening to music that much, and I'm not listening that much now. But I think guys like David Guetta, for example, with that great song with
Will I Am.
No, the what's her name?
Kelly Rowland. No?
I forgot the name. Anyway, so I think he brought back disco, but disco with basically what I did with Donna Summer, having a great voice and a great that black influence. That was David's big thing, getting that kind of sound back in the States.
It's a big kind of film theme today with the IMS Engage. We're here in Hollywood. David Lynch was obviously on before us. You had a massive, successful film career. How was the transition for you from being the kind of cutting-edge producer there in Germany in the mid-'70s and getting that first call? How did you end up getting the Midnight Express job?
That was, now, first of all, I was never really interested in getting into the film business, especially that at that time here in town, that kind of business was in the hands of the great musicians like John Williams, classical.
You didn't consider yourself one of those?
No, not at all. In fact, I don't even write music, so I could probably not do what John Williams does. But then this great director, Alan Parker, heard the song I Feel Love, and he was directing Midnight Express. And he called me and said, are you interested in doing the score? And I said, yeah, of course. So he said, the only thing I really need from you is one track which has that throbbing, that driving sound of I Feel Love for a special scene at the beginning where the kid runs away. So I said, that's easy. So I composed The Chase. And the rest, he was not that interested. He said, do whatever you want. And
really?
Yeah. Oh, it was the best.
But you'd never scored a film before?
Never. And he gave me some suggestions. We should be suspenseful here. We should be dramatic here, a little more romantic there. And I gave him...
And what stage of the filmmaking process were you doing that? Was that all at the end when you were watching it?
The movie was almost done. I mean, some smaller cuts. So I had the video. I did about probably 10 minutes. I sent the tapes to him to London, and at that time I was in Munich. And
so it wasn't here.
No, we did it there with Robbie again, and he came on a Sunday and we mixed it. And the only thing
the whole film in one day.
In one day. Well, first of all, nobody at that time knew about electronic music. He could not really say, no, I want something else, because he didn't know much more than I knew.
Right.
Great
story.
The only thing I remember him saying...
Inspiring for everyone.
The only thing which I remember was that, Giorgio, somehow I could hear a flute, an oboe, he said. Oh boy, okay, okay, here, and I played him the oboe. That was the only thing he wanted to add.
From there, you went on an incredible run. You had the Foxes, which gave us on the radio. You had American Gigolo.
Yeah, Call Me.
It was Call Me with Blondie. But then, I think, great interest to everyone, you end up working with Brian De Palma on probably one of the most iconic films ever made, certainly in Scarface. How did that come about?
That was one of the few movies which I started while they were still filming. So I had the main theme in my head. It should be something like dong 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 dong, and I composed the first song, the Tony's theme. He loved it, and that's the piece which went through most of the song of the movie. And then obviously composed about 4 or 5 songs which fit in the discotheque. And then the other stuff, all electronic.
Did that bring you to Hollywood, or were you down in Miami? Sorry? Or were you down in Miami then? Or?
No. I was here when they filmed some of the scenes with Al Pacino. They did it here in Hollywood.
Okay. And then Metropolis. You took on rescoring one of the greatest films ever made. How did that?
I loved the idea what Coppola did with the father Coppola did with Napoleon. They did a live performance and it went so well. So I thought I should do something like that. And Metropolis was always a movie which I loved. So I started to inquire about the rights and then I finally got the rights, and I started to compose. Maybe I should have done a little less pop song, less rock song. But at that time, I loved it, and some people love it, some people hate it.
You came in for some criticism, right?
Sorry?
You came in for some criticism.
Quite a lot. Yeah, it's to score a silent movie, which is silent, right? To score it and then score it with songs. But the good thing is that I spend a lot of time and money visually on the movie. I at that time it was by far the best copy. I found some copies in Munich, some copies at the MoMA in New York. I found some very few seconds here in town with an old movie cinema where the owner still had the tapes, some parts in nitrate. So I took them to CFI and we put them on film. I got some pieces from Melbourne, from Canberra in Australia. And so my version is still good and nice.
It's quite inspiring because people now DJing at festivals like doing kind of the same thing, kind of re-DJing to great old movies, putting their soundtracks into interpretations. Is there any composers you really admire, or do you wish you could have worked with, or you would like to collaborate in the future? And would you do a score again now?
Yeah, if
now you're back out of retirement.
Well, I couldn't do the big scores like the Superman or those scores because that's not my style. But for example, a movie like Drive, which I love, that one, or the girl with the tattoo, that kind of I would love to do.
Maybe you'll get
and one of my heroes, well, obviously John Williams is the best. Yeah. He's incredible. But the second, or as good, is Hans Zimmer.
He's coming. Have you worked with Hans ever?
I worked on. We had a project for the Academy of I think 2 years ago when him, myself, and Pharrell, we played during the Academy Awards.
Are we?
Yeah, in the intermission we were playing. We were up in the stands playing. I was playing synthesizer, and Pharrell was playing drums. So that was one of the collaborations with him.
He's got a kind of school here. Now we'll hear from him later this afternoon. But I think John PXL's here, Tom's here, but he was almost started out as an apprentice of Hans and ended up just doing.
I worked with him. I mean, I saw him. How he's working, and he has apart from the setup, his studios, all that, but his personal setup is incredible. He has this beautiful sounds, and it's absolutely professional.
Do you? I mean, you always got such a strong association with the craft of the studio craft. You were involved in setting up one of the most famous studios there ever was in Europe, Musicland. When you see someone like Hans now, do you crave back to that time, or you live in LA now and make music on your laptop?
Yeah, well, it is different now. Then I had my five musicians, most of the time the same. Then the strings come in, and then the brass, and then the vocals, and then the background. Now it's quite different. But I'm back kind of. I use live drums now, not always, but sometimes. Guitars. I use the saxophone lately.
What music are you making now?
I do dance music, but a combination of a little bit of disco sound and electronics. So I used a saxophone, and the guy was almost crying. He came, "Oh, thank you for using me," because the sax players are kind of out of business.
They're all shot with the bongo players.
Yeah.
I think all the sax players have moved to Germany.
So
you've got them all.
So I was happy to have one here again, finally, a real saxophone and not the one I played.
You've answered the next question, which was what would you know? Now you're collaborating with the kind of the youth, the new generation of producers. You see the way music's made. What would you bring from the past? And it's the sax player. Then.
Well, for example, I certainly am going to use a guitar. I'm certainly going to use some strings, which I did. And then what I really would love to go back in the days when the music was not 8 bars and 8 bars and 8 bars, like a little bit now. Come back where you have an intro, a verse, chorus, second verse, which now in most of the dance songs, it's not the case. So go back to that style.
Change it.
Oh, I'm doing it. And incredibly, I'm just spoke today with a great young guy from France, Hugo, Madian. I never know. It's incredible. 19 years old.
He played. I went to his house in Nantes. He lives with his parents. I went to his basement the first time I met him, and he played me a piece of his music. And in the middle of it, there was a 90-second guitar solo. And it was like he'd got kind of Jimmy Page or Richie Blackmore to pop over to France and come to his basement and play this solo. And I said to him, "Where the hell did you sample that from? You know, who did you get to play that?" He said, "No, I played it." I said, "Well, you played music as well?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, how do you do it?" He says, "It took me about 3 weeks." And he just, in Fruity Loops, he drew every single note of this playing, but it wasn't just like, it was like, and he got every single inflection of string pull and everything. It was like, oh my God. Yeah. So he's scary.
Yeah, I briefly worked with Avicii, and he had an interesting song, but it was not yet. So he said, okay, he opened Melodyne, and he said, okay, what do you think? Could that note be da-da-da? No, I said maybe da-da-da. So he basically changed the melody in Melodyne. It's or the latest, which I still don't understand. You play a guitar, right? And one of the strings is a little out of tune. You go into Melodyne and you change it.
Correct. Yeah.
You go from major to minor on a recorded guitar. Yeah. It's incredible.
So you're inspired.
Oh yeah. So now about you. So you moved not back, but you moved to LA.
I moved to LA, yeah. I think a bit like David Lynch for the light, I think.
Wow, it's great here, huh?
It's inspiring. It's a very inspiring, creative place.
But so how are you going to do with the BBC? You do it from here?
I do it, I kind of, technology, as you say, even for the recorded voice has changed a lot. So just with a decent microphone and a sound card and a laptop. And I rented a house here in LA, and I've tried every single kind of corner of the house where it's quiet. So I've been in the shower, I've been in the toilet. This is absolutely serious. The first few shows were done in the bog. We've tried the outhouses, and now I've settled in the garage. But I find actually it's better to be just at home rather than driving to studios and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's kind of smoke and mirrors. But I go back to Radio 1 every month or so, and they actually think now that maybe the garage or the toilet sounds better than the studio. So.
Oh God, yeah.
It's quite funny.
And are you going back to DJ in Ibiza?
Yep. Probably not as much as I've done before, but I'll be there we've got the IMS there at the end of May, so I'll be doing Doubt Villa. We've got shows on the Thursday and Friday night, and then it's still being decided, but it's a kind of combination of things this year. I think I'll go back on tour and play some of the other clubs again, and still do a bit of the Schweier, and they've got a new place called the Hard Rock as well. So.
Okay, so I may see you in. I just got an offer.
Hopefully, you're gonna play. We should get you to play at the Hard Rock, actually.
Oh, I'm happy. I'm happy to come. Okay, good. Yeah, I may be in Ibiza at the end of the end of September. Okay. That's the end of the season, right there.
That's when everyone's worn out.
It's kind of yeah. So they need some fresh.
It's a long season.
Yeah.
But, you should see both ends. You should see it at the beginning when everyone's fresh as
I was there 2 years ago.
Oh, you were with us, at the IMS as well.
For the IMS.
Thank you very much.
Oh, so that's in May.
The IMS is the end of May.
I'm in Milano in the 15th of May. No, I have to come back to work.
Work it out with Ben. The last question I've got to ask you about.
And you're going on a cruise, I hear.
Yeah, we've got a boat going out as well. Maybe we'll get you on that. But
God,
I think this is just
You're quite busy, huh? I like. What's the name of the tour? All gone to see.
All gone to see.
All gone to see.
It's kind of harking back to where I started when I first DJed. The big thing back in England was weekenders, soul weekenders. So we Caster and Prestatin and everything. We used to take a rowdy bunch like this away to a holiday camp. And it was always one of my fondest memories. It was like kind of career shaping, really, where you get a bunch of people locked away, for 2 or 3 days. So we're going to do 4 days on a boat and see if we can.
So it would start at 6 in the afternoon until.
It will start some Thursday afternoon. We go off to sea, and then hopefully we come back Monday morning.
But so you would work until 7 in the morning.
You kind of work. You kind of work through the night.
Which that could work quite well for me because I could sleep, getting up at 5.
That's right.
Have breakfast and then come in
you could
fresh.
do the day shift. A little bit of Love to Love You, baby. Here's what I recorded last night. I've got to ask you quickly before questions. There's that place called Giorgio's. I've noticed. Now I'm looking. I was looking for Silencio. The other club I've been looking for in LA is Giorgio's at the Standard. But this isn't you, is it? This is a tribute to you.
No, it's actually, it's more than a tribute. They just took it.
Right.
No, it's a good friend. It's a good friend of ours, Brian. He organized my birthday. Actually, my wife organized it with him. My birthday was 75. No, 70 years. And so they are playing music. They are playing disco, only disco.
But I like everyone dresses up. If you don't know, as well.
What?
They dress up as well. They get into character.
Yeah.
They all look like your Twitter picture with the moustache from the Boogie Nights.
I think it's the best club in town. Actually.
You had a good look. I've got to say, back in the day, Giorgio had a fantastic look.
Thank you. And the next video where hopefully in.
You're going to be in, right?
Well, yeah. I'm doing an album now, so I have several artists, and I have one big one. And if they take me in the video, I'm going to do something on my mustache. I can to go back to the good old disco time.
There's a mystery disco song around at the moment. I've been playing, and Annie Mac's been playing. That's not you, is it?
Which one?
No. What's it called? No. I play it. I should know the name, but no. Everyone's been trying to guess who it is. Just suddenly realised it's probably you, but maybe not. It's okay for another day.
A new one?
No, it's a new track that we've been given. No price. That's it. There you go. That's not you, is it?
No.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
That's one more off the list. It's not chic.
Okay.
Anyway, any questions?
Hello, my name is Edwin Rivera, and I just want to ask you, what's your thought process like when you get in the studio and you're about to produce a song? Like, what do you look for? What inspires you right before you start working on a track?
Well, first of all, it depends if I do a track for a singer, which I know, like I would work with Donna. I knew her voice. I knew that's one thing. Who is it for? Second, is it up tempo? Is it a ballad? If it's an up tempo, I pick a good tempo, which is like 125, and it changed a little bit lately, but usually I would have a nice sound of a pad. I have a drum machine or loops, and I just start to sing. Then you have the very rough intro. Then you pick the keys for the chorus, which are very important. Then go back. So build it up. It's different from the way especially the singers do compose now. For example, the other day I was working with a female singer, and I had the tracks because she wanted to do, and she did the melodies, right? So she did the 8 bars, which was the intro. No, which was 8 bars. She had a loop. I gave her a loop, and she was singing, composing, and the loop. And then she recorded it. And then she would hear the chorus. She would sing on top, and then basically, and then she said, "Okay, now do whatever you want." I said, "How?" And the problem there was that the 2 pieces were not joined. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. So by playing, I don't play just the verse and then 2 minutes later or half an hour later, the chorus, I do the verse, and then going to the chorus, and then once you have verse and chorus, that's the main part. So
Were you ever trained? I never asked you that. Were you trained musically?
No.
You taught yourself?
No, I play decent chords and stuff, and obviously with the computers, if I cannot do a bass line fast enough, I just take the BPMs down and I can play it. But I just do good demos where I'm trying not to find too many sounds, because for that one I have the musicians. Because if you're not in the computers every day, you don't know where the new sounds are. So I just use the usual ones and I let the musicians do the rest.
Good answer. Any other questions?
Oh, it's great to have you here at IMS, and I wanted to ask you a question regarding what are some of your early classic and vintage pieces of gear, like the Linn drum, or what was you using for arpeggiation for your synthesizers?
Okay, first of all, I don't remember most of it, but
it was disco. Yeah. I like the fact no one can ever remember anything about the 70s.
Those were too wild.
I can remember Arsenal won the double, but other than that.
So I used this guy Tommy in Munich who had the Big Moog. That was the first synthesizer at all. Then I used a little I think it was a Japanese rhythm machine, because what we found out that if you want to do dance songs, you need the rhythm has to be constant, because we started to cut physically tapes changing, and so I used a little machine. Then Roger Linn came to visit me in I think 81 or so, and said, "Look, Giorgio, I have this drum machine called the Linn drum," and I bought one. I bought the first.
He didn't give it to you?
No, because he was struggling. Right. So he only had two machines, one to show and one I bought. So that was one. And then I had the usual JP. I think I did a lot of stuff in the JP8. Then I used, what's the one with the piano, the big one, the big expensive?
Fairlight.
No, I had Fairlight. Right. The one after Fairlight.
Mellotron,
no. Synclavier. That had great sounds. I did Flashdance with that one. I did Call Me with that one. Call Me actually, just one solo. Yeah, that was one of the best synthesizers ever. And then the little ones like the
Junos and
the D2, like
DMX,
Yamahas, Rolands. The one I used and I kind of screwed up was the bass line on Take My Breath Away. I did the demo by myself and I had this song. Dong, 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 dong. I had one sound and then I added the treble and the vibrato and it worked really good. And then I said, okay, now let's save it. So I saved it, right? 2 days later, we wanted to do the tracks and couldn't find it. So on that track, the bass line is played by me with the original, and if you really listen, it's not really that well timed. So that's the JP2, I think.
One more question?
Okay.
Last question? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.